Hey everybody, welcome to another video on the new City Catechism. It is super windy outside, so hopefully that doesn't create too much background noise. We're getting to a fun part of this whole journey through this devotional where we start to see how it's really a sequential thing. You gotta understand the first question to understand the next question, and then you need to know the answer to the next question before you can even ask the next question, and so forth and so on. So a few questions ago, we looked at the fact that one of the primary reasons we exist is to glorify God. In fact, it is the primary reason we exist. And then last week we saw that one of the ways we glorify God is by obeying His law. So the natural follow-up question is, what does the law of God require? That's question 7. It's what we're looking at today. The answer is where things start to get a little tricky for us, because the answer is the law of God requires personal, perpetual, perfect obedience, that we love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourselves. What God forbids should never be done, and what God commands should always be done. As far as answers go, this one's probably easier to understand than most of what we've looked at thus far. Don't do what God says not to do. Always do what God says to do. When Jesus was asked what is the greatest commandment, he said that these two sum up the whole law and prophets. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So if that's what the law of God requires, well, then we've got to deal with the alls. All your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength. And that's why, as this catechism articulates it, our obedience has to be personal. It's got to be me doing it. It has to be perpetual. There can't be an end to it. And it has to be perfect. All your heart, all your strength. There's no room for letting one slide every now and then. As soon as we do one thing that God forbids, or as soon as we fail to do one thing that God commands, we have failed to accomplish or to do what the law requires. And this is why the Bible says, if you've broken any part of the law, you are guilty for breaking the whole law. Because the whole law is summed up: love the Lord your God with all you are and all you have. Now, if that sounds like bad news, because experience tells us that none of us have done that, and none of us are able to do that. If that sounds like pretty bad news to you, that's kind of the point. You see, the gospel, it's what we talk about a lot in church. Gospel means good news, but it's not good news in a vacuum. It's good news in response to bad news. So now we're starting to understand the bad news. This is the requirement of the law of God, and we're going to talk about this more in a future week, but clearly none of us can keep that requirement. None of us can perfectly keep that law. That's the bad news, and that's where we're going to leave it off this week. As always, I'd love to hear your comments or any insights or thoughts on this down below. If you want to see that whole through line between the different questions, there is a playlist on YouTube where we've got all these videos in order. You can follow that. And as always, would sure love for you to join us for worship on Sunday as we dig deeper into the Lord's will and His Word and seek to know Him and follow Him better. Bye for now.